Feedback tends to have a terrible reputation, conjuring up feelings of dread and visions of conflict. But feedback can be so much more empowering and inspiring. This is where fearless feedback steps in, and it allows us to make the most of this essential development tool. On that note, let's give feedback the rebrand it deserves. After all, feedback is a gift. It elevates skills across our team, it improves productivity, and it increases engagement. Your colleagues appreciate when you invest in their growth. But what exactly is fearless feedback? Well, it's a conversation that meets 3 criteria. It's valued by the other person, it's productive and actionable, and it enriches your relationship because ultimately your colleague feels supported and encouraged by your fearless feedback. So how do we give fearless feedback? Well, we commit to their growth, we time it right, and we find multiple opportunities to recognize them. And of course, fearless feedback needs to be grounded in a strong foundation of trust. Let's recap each of these. Before any feedback conversation, ask yourself what your mindset is. Are you frustrated, tired, impatient, or angry? Or are you committed to developing, mentoring, and supporting your colleague? Because this is the growth mindset that helps us all succeed. A simple model that helps you stay focused on growth is WWW-EBI. You start with what went well, which is a great opportunity to recognize your team members and build trust. Then you turn to even better if. This feed-forward approach highlights what they can do better next time as opposed to what went wrong last time. This approach also keeps your feedback practical and actionable. It's vague to tell your colleague to write with a senior audience in mind, but it's way more helpful to say their work could be even better if they share insights versus facts. This begs the question about whether constructive feedback is ever appropriate, and the answer is a definite yes. Yes, we all learn best by doing as opposed to being told, but your colleague may not even be aware that they've made a mistake, or they may not see the impact of their actions. So they need someone. They need you to help them expand their perspective. After all, if they knew better, they likely would have done better. This leads us to talk about the ideal timing for fearless feedback. Obviously, we don't want to wait several months until their next performance review. Instead, we want to share feedback during the next appropriate opportunity. And by appropriate, I mean when both of you have a growth mindset. In other words, you're both open and receptive to a valued, productive, and enriching conversation. If you can do that in the moment, great. But if they're exhausted or frustrated, or you are for that matter, I suggest pausing on sharing your feedback until another time. Just don't wait too long. Ideally, share your feedback within about 1 week. Feedback is not a season. Rather, it's something we want to commit to all year long. But let's face it, we're all busy, so it can be hard to find the time. This is why I really like to use the fast feedback approach based on 2 simple prompts: what went well, and even better if. These conversations can be quick, like 2 minutes quick, and allow for real-time development. Yes, some conversations are longer, but they don't all need to be long. It's far better to have a quick exchange than no feedback conversation at all. They can't read your mind, and they can't hit a target they can't see. Now let's turn to recognition, which is something we all crave and helps to build motivation. As well, recognizing your teammates creates psychological safety and helps them be more open to hearing your feedback. High-performance teams share significantly more positive than constructive feedback by a rate of about 6-to-1. On that note, I encourage you to reflect on how often you recognize others. Can you highlight team members during meetings? Explain what you like about their work. Let them know why you value them. Even simply respond to their emails with an appreciative note. In general, seek out opportunities to catch them doing things right. Finally, let's talk about trust, the foundation of fearless feedback. If you think about a rope as an analogy for the connection between you and any of your colleagues, this can be a strong, solid rope, which means trust is high. Or it can be a weak, frayed rope, which means trust is low. You strengthen this rope and your trust when you take the time to get to know your colleagues, which you can do both in person and virtually. Also, you have some shared wins and you work through some challenges together, and overall you build up the goodwill that can sustain a challenging conversation. So to recap, Fearless feedback begins with a focus on your team's growth, followed by an ongoing commitment to feedback throughout the year. Catch your colleagues doing things right with frequent recognition, and consistently look to strengthen your connections and build trust. The more you embrace this fearless feedback model, the more amazing your team is and the bigger impact you collectively make.